Hello, this is Fritz-Ay Says, and welcome to One Last Night. So this is going to be a re-recording. I've already done this once, but I've learned some tips and tricks of how to go about doing this better, so I wanted to go ahead and redo it. So I know the MC's name per the author is Dorian, and I actually really like that name, so I'm going to go with that. There's a sudden coldness at my back, causing me to stir from my sleep. I move my arm around behind me, patting the empty area of the bed. With a groan, I call out into the dark room. Is it morning already? My question is met with a light chuckle in response. Unfortunately so, Dorian. Reluctantly, I roll over and look at my boyfriend, Marshall. He's in the middle of fastening his pants, not yet fully clothed. I drink in the sight of his half-naked lupine form, strays of sunlight peeking in through the curtains and causing his well-groomed silver fur to shine. At least I've got a nice view to comfort me. A bright smile dawns on his face as he makes his way over to my side of the bed. Not as nice as mine. He starts to bend over in an attempt to plant a kiss on my forehead. At the last second, I jerk my head upwards instead, resulting in our lips meeting. There's a brief flash of surprise, but it dissipates quickly and I feel his smile widen as he puts more effort into the kiss. We both linger there, neither wanting to break the moment. A small growl comes from his stomach, putting an end to the passionate moment with a laugh. Sounds like someone's hungry. As if on cue, I hear my own stomach growl in a clear act of betrayal. Marshall laughs at the sound. Seems like I'm not the only one. He crosses over back to the closet and pulls out one of his navy blue button-up work shirts. A small wave of disappointment hits me now that he is clothed. Are you sure we can't just go back to bed? Your spot is still warm. I rub my hand on his side of the bed, attempting to be seductive despite my drooping eyelids and definite bedhead. He pretends to ponder the question for a moment before shaking his head. Sorry, Dorian, but breakfast isn't going to make itself. I let out a long, overdramatic sigh as I see a spark of mischief in Marshall's eyes. I'll go get the coffee started. That should wake you up enough to make sure you don't burn the omelets again. He hastily exits the room, giggling to himself, disappearing from my island before I have a chance to throw a pillow at him. You know that only happened once! I call after him, lowering my soft weapon. I lay there for a few more moments, gathering what little energy I can before I throw off the blankets. The cold morning air bites at my exposed skin, causing a shiver to go down my spine. Hurriedly, I make my way over to the closet and pull out some clothes. Sweatpants and one of Marshall's tees should work for now. I can always dress up later if I need to go out. Pulling the shirt over my head, it's clearly too big for me, but nevertheless, it provides me a sense of comfort. I grab some of the hem and inhale, getting a whiff of my boyfriend's pleasant citrusy scent that he likes to shampoo his fur with. With my skin now covered, I can feel the warmth returning to my body once more. I look longingly at the bed, wishing to be wrapped under its thick covers again. I give it a gentle pat on my way out the door. Don't worry, old girl. I'll be back soon. I make my way out into the kitchen, rubbing the remaining sleep from my eyes. Arriving just in time, I catch Marshall finishing up pouring our coffees. He adds some milk and a good amount of sugar to his while leaving mine black. He hands me my mug as he passes, stealing a quick kiss. The scent of coffee reaches my nose, already beginning to stir me awake. I take a sip of the hot, bitter liquid and let out a sigh of relief. The coffee starts to work its magic as I feel a pit of warmth now in my stomach, the caffeine beginning to circulate through me. Marshall looks at me and shakes his head in a mock disapproving manner from his seat at the island. I'll still never understand how you can drink that stuff straight. The moment those words leave his lips, I can see a look of regret cross his face, knowing what's about to exit my mouth. It's probably the only thing I like straight. He groans and trying and failing to hide his smirk as I chuckle at my own bad joke. Taking a hair tie from my wrist, I put my hair into a bun so it stays out of my face while I cook breakfast. I begin my prep, taking out the ingredients I'll need for both breakfast and lunch. Since Marshall doesn't have any good food options near his work, I usually pack a lunch for him. With the ingredients we have today, our usual breakfast omelets are on the menu, though we'll need some more eggs soon, with lunch being a BLT with extra bacon. Bacon was one of the foods we first bonded over, before omelets, and has always been a favorite of Marshall's. Even on days where our meals wouldn't usually have bacon, I make sure to pack him some. Gotta keep my wolf happy, after all. As I cook, the two of us make occasional small talk, the effects of the coffee helping us along. Speaking of food, what's for dinner tonight? Not sure yet. Somebody forgot to go grocery shopping yesterday. Marshall glances sheepishly down into his mug. Come on, deputy. I just wanted to spend some more time with you. A smile creeps on my face hearing him call me by that nickname. Since his name is Marshall, he likes to call me his deputy whenever I have to remind him of something. It's cute. I'll go while you're at work today. Got any requests? His face brightens and I see his tail swish back and forth from the corner of my eye. Something sweet! Typical Marshall and his sweet tooth. A devious idea begins to form in my mind. Something sweet, huh? That can be done. I bend over and grab a pan, making sure to stick my ass out. The trick works and I catch him staring at it. Our eyes meet and I give him a wink. Sorry, Marshy, but the cake will have to be saved for later. He flusters at that and buries his face in his mug as I start on the omelets. The rest of the meal is made in a comfortable silence. Luckily, with the simplicity of the food and my experience cooking, that doesn't take long. I set the food on the counter and make my way around to join him, refilling my coffee as I go. Barely able to contain himself, the moment I sit down he begins shoveling the food into his muzzle. I smile at the joy my cooking brings him, feeling his tail occasionally whack me in his food-filled bliss. Don't forget to chew. A blush creeps onto his face at my comment as he slows his pace, allowing me to start catching up with his progress. We sit there together and eat, not needing to speak to enjoy the presence of the other. There were so many people I'd fallen for in the past, but no more quite like Marshall. None managed to make me feel the way I do whenever I look at him, a sense of pure love. The happiest times of my life have been while I'm dating him. As we take our last few bites, I bring the dishes into the kitchen as Marshall starts getting ready for work again. Slipping some extra bacon into his lunch bag for the sandwich, I go to meet him at the door. He takes the paper bag from me, and I let him pull me into his strong, furry arms. Feeling the warmth of him once again, I look up at my wolf. Are you sure I can't convince you to stay home today? He sighs, knowing he wants to stay as much as I want him to. Sorry, Dorian, but I've got a new trainee in today. Plus I need my sick days saved up for our vacation in the summer. I know, but that doesn't mean I won't miss you. He gives a light laugh as I pout, and brings his head down to mine for another kiss. I'll miss you too. We stand together and embrace for a moment longer before stepping apart. I love you, Dorian. See you tonight. See you tonight, Marshy. Love you too. We give each other one last goodbye kiss as he steps out the door for work. Our eyes meet, each full of love before the door shuts behind him. I'm left alone in the now silent apartment, unaware of what was to come. If only I tried a little harder to make him stay. If only his alarm had never gone off that morning. If only we had stayed in our bed together. Maybe that morning wouldn't have been the last time I saw you, Marshall. Maybe we'd been together when it happened. When the world, as we knew it, collapsed. Dear Marshall, it's getting harder to keep track of the days now. They all sort of blur together into a congealed mess of memories. But of course, I can't forget today. I dreamt of it last night, my mind's way of reminding me of what happened a year ago. It was the day I last saw you. The day the apocalypse began. I'm still searching for you, Marshall. I know you're somewhere out there. If someone like me can survive in this mess for so long, you sure as hell can. For once, I'm thankful for the torrents of rain that the spring brought in this year. Some new pathways were cleared through the debris, expanding my search radius. Hopefully, this will give me some new leads. That is, if... No. I can't think like that. I won't. If I do, there's no way I'll be able to make it through. I will find you. I promise. See you soon. Dorian. As I close the journal, I lean back and stretch out my muscles to get rid of the morning exhaustion. Despite giving myself a few additional hours of rest this morning to make up for what little sleep I had gotten this week, the dream caused me to toss and turn all night. I wasn't going to let that stop me today, though. With the first part of my morning ritual complete, I move on to my next. Inventory check. Matches. Check. Water. Check. Multi-tool. Check. I continued through the list of items, satisfyingly marking them all down with their appropriate amounts. My current amount of rations was to be noted. I only had enough to last me a few more days, which meant I'd have to scavenge in the city soon. I returned everything back to its place, making sure the supplies were neatly organized. In the unlikely event I'd have to make a quick escape, it was always better to be prepared. Grabbing my makeshift spear, which consisted of a kitchen knife screwed into a long metal pole, I stood up in my tent to start the next part of the routine. This task required me to go outside and investigate. The perimeter check. Before I even had a chance to take a step out, a loud clanging of metal rang out from somewhere nearby. Something had just set off my makeshift perimeter alarm. I halted at the flaps, silently waiting to hear what would come next. With no further sounds provided, I slowly walked outside. Each step was hesitant and careful, not wanting to make any unnecessary noise. Thankfully, it was still daylight. I used this fact to my advantage as I surveyed the area quickly. My camp was set up in a small clearing, trees shadowing the edges of it. The earth was relatively rough, with occasional patches of concrete debris, scattered throughout with patches of yellow grass. The campfire at the center remained a mound of charcoal, the embers of last night's fire long since burned out. The site seemed to be relatively undisturbed. I took a deep breath, allowing myself to give a more focused survey of the area and hone my mind on the situation. There were only 3 possibilities I could think of that would have triggered the perimeter alarm. The first and most hopeful option, a simple wild animal. Probably wandered too close, trying to get a look at whatever had set up this unnatural nest in its space. The second, but manageable option, bandits. I encountered a group of them around a week ago, making sure to stay out of their sight as they scavenged. Luckily, I got away unnoticed with some of their rations. It was nice having the universe on your side sometimes. The third option was the worst of the bunch, one I didn't even want to consider in case my thoughts managed to will it into existence. At the moment, I spotted a hint of movement from the corner of my eye. Gotcha. Just barely poking out from the nearby tree was the silhouette of a furred elbow. Cautiously, I began navigating around the sticks and rougher earth that littered the ground. I had to be stealthy about this. I had no clues as to who had found my camp, If they were an enemy, I'd need the advantage of surprise on my side. I strayed closer and closer to the figure, moving like a faint breeze through the grass. They hadn't seemed to notice my presence yet, remaining still in their place. A growing sense of discomfort began to gnaw at my stomach. This entire scenario didn't sit right with me. It was possible the person had run to hide after setting off the alarm, freezing in place behind a tree. That would confirm whoever it was had business with me, and it probably wasn't good. In that case, the best course of action would be to continue my approach and catch them off guard. Hopefully that would be enough to turn the tide in my favor. Alternatively, there was another possibility. One that would benefit from me remaining where I was. As slim odds as they were, there was a chance that it wasn't a person at all. We're gonna be careful about this. I stopped my approach, choosing to listen to my instincts about the situation. Sometimes it's better to rely on those when facing an unknown. Maintaining my distance, I searched the ground and found a decent-sized rock I could use. Whether I hit or missed, this was sure to draw some sort of reaction. I took a few steps to the side, causing the figure to be slightly less obscured from my view. Carefully, I aimed the rock and threw it. Direct hit. The arm fell to the side a bit, giving me a better look at a white furred paw. From what I could see, it likely belonged to a polar bear. I wasn't familiar with any of those. I waited for him to react to my throw, but no response came. The way the arm hung limply now, it was clear that it wasn't alive. Whether it was a doll or a corpse, I couldn't tell yet, but one thing was clear. That thing wasn't the real enemy. Whoever, or whatever had put it there, had clearly done so to trick me into getting closer. I saw the branches of a bush near the body begin to rustle and my eyes shifted towards the movement. Staring back at me were a pair of pitch black eyes. Fuck. The creature rose from its hiding place slowly, revealing its full form while keeping those scarlet irises locked on me. Ratty and sparse long hair framed its sunken face. The mouth opened unnaturally wide, as if its jaw were dislocated. Inside were rows of razor-sharp teeth, with two fangs, the most prominent of them, all at the front. Its skin had taken a darkened gray hue, pulled taut not just over the face, but over the rest of its body too, highlighting its oversized bones within. It approached on all fours like a wild animal, the long, lanky limbs guiding it forward, claws leaving trails through the dirt. Of course it had to be this. I should have expected no less from the shit show world. The third option was our winner after all. A faded. With the element of surprise no longer on its side and some distance between us, I readied myself into a proper fighting position. The faded slinked into the clearing, eyeing me with caution as we began to circle each other. Fights like these could end in an instant, often with whoever made the first move. It lunged first, but I was ready. With near blinding speed, it bounded towards me and brought its claws down towards the earth. I used the opportunity to slide beneath its belly, slicing the spear across it before standing up behind it. The creature let out a yowl of pain and turned to face me, teeth bared more than I thought possible. Blackened blood started to pool beneath. Though the wound wasn't deep, it had done the damage as intended. Infuriated, I was left on the defensive as it came at me with a flurry of blows, barely managing to dodge or deflect them and leaving me no opportunity for a counterattack. It left a trail of blood and dust in its wake, relentless in its pursuit. Its movement speed was slower thanks to my first blow, but it remained determined in trying to kill me. However, I was also tiring, fighting a creature more than 3 times my size. The fight soon became a battle of stamina, neither of us willing to fall to the other. All I needed was to wait for the right opportunity, the smallest margin of error in its attacks. Then I could claim victory. Exchanging blow after blow, The two of us fought to get the upper hand. As the arm came towards me, the monster faltered slightly, seeming to lose some of its balance. Now! I narrowly avoided the claws, allowing the weight of my spear to carry my momentum forward in one last desperate thrust. But the blow never landed. The fated slip had been intentional and allowed it the opportunity to reach its hand out toward me. Caught off guard, I could do nothing as its fingers wrapped around my body, causing me to drop my spear. It held me in the air triumphantly, a look mixed with anger and amusement crossing its face. It had won. I struggled as hard as I could, but it had a vice-like grip on around me. It squeezed hard, and I felt immense pain throughout my body. I cried out from the agony, unable to contain it in time. A horror dawned on me as its hand moved towards its mouth, realizing that my death was imminent. I spent a year in this hellscape, and this was how I was going to die? I refused to believe it. I still needed to make it through the day. I still needed to find Marshall. I stopped my cries and stared into its dark eyes, refusing to give it the satisfaction of seeing me as scared prey. Closing my eyes, I waited for the inevitable and cast out one last wish, asking whatever fucked up deity that might be listening to give me a second chance. The sound of something impaling flesh came from in front of me. Opening my eyes slowly, I peered at the fated. Curiosity piqued at the noise. Between its brows sat an arrow, embedded deep within its forehead. A look of shock was now on its horrifying face, before the eyes rolled back and I felt the grip around me loosen. The creature collapsed, and I fell from its now dead hand. More pain shot through my already fragile body as I hit the ground below me. I did it! I did it! A voice called out from somewhere nearby, one completely unfamiliar to me. I heard a gasp as my mysterious savior presumably saw my stiff body on the ground. Shit! 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 Footsteps began to rush towards me. Using the last of my strength, I looked up, hoping to get a glimpse of the figure. All I managed to get was a silhouette of someone holding a bow and arrow. And then the world went black. So that's the end of episode 1. I should be getting on to episode 2 shortly, but I just wanted to keep the same pacing as I did with my first recording. So everybody, this has been Fritz-Ay Says, and have a nice day.